And I'd like to start with Charlotte. Charlotte, can you tell us firstly about the sort of work that you do, and then secondly about the role of the creative process in your work and your science?
Sure. So I'm a phytoplankton ecologist working here in UTS in C3, the Climate Change Cluster. I'm also a PhD student alongside these two lovely creatures here. But my work is really studying phytoplankton, the microscopic plant cells, free living cells that live in the oceans and are really important for driving the food chains in the oceans and also producing oxygen we breathe and regulating carbon dioxide cycles in the atmosphere as well. And my work is really centred around the process of photosynthesis, so how these organisms capture sunlight and they use this to drive carbon fixation to build their biomass, their tissue. And I suppose I've been involved with the Living Data project for a little while now, but not on anything specific. I'm sort of a floating soundboard, I suppose you could say. So I'm involved in a lot of the conversations around various pieces and offer some expert advice on various scientific topics. But I'm often asked by Lisa for 5 different ways of saying the same thing, which has actually been a really great thing for me because it really helps me find different ways of explaining my science, but also it helps to synthesise really complicated ideas and concepts down to very simple ones, which helps me to communicate with other people as well, to tell them about what I do. But also sometimes it helps us to take a step back when we're really we're tackling issues or problems or questions that we just can't push through. Sometimes taking a step back and bringing things down to its most basic foundations or first principles really helps. But I suppose the creative process has been really important for that, because you do have to really step back and think of other ways of approaching the same topic. But it's also about different ways of seeing beauty in what we do. And I mean, I really enjoy talking with the artists because I think we have a sort of a common understanding in that we already see what we do as being beautiful, and so we value it. And I think when we talk with each other, we kind of know that that each other's work is important because there is a beauty there that we may not see it yet. I may not see the beauty in the type of artwork that other people do, but I do realise that it is beautiful, so it has value. So we sort of lose that initial pretense of having to validate what we do, which is we spend half our lives doing. I know pretty much every party I go to on a Friday night, I have to find a new way of making what I do sound important to the people that I'm meeting. So it's really nice to lose that and just be able to talk freely about what we work on. But I think Dale was touching on before about how important the creative process is for solving problems, and I do believe that is true. I think in science we're at a point where we know so much about the world, even though there's so much to know, but the problems that we face are so complicated that we need to be able to work with each other in other disciplines. And that involves communicating with each other, and some scientists don't understand scientists. I'll go and talk to a quantum physicist and I'll have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. So even talking with artists really helps us being able to explain to each other and also excite each other too. We can get very caught up in very dry details that we forget about what's beautiful about science. So.
Can I just take up on that very last point that you made? The organisms that Charlotte studies are incredibly important in ocean ecosystems, but they're also amazingly beautiful. I think though a lot of the audience might never have seen a living phytoplankton. Can you paint a word picture, please, of your favourite phytoplankton and why they are so beautiful?
It's a bit like choosing your favourite child, really. I think that they're all quite beautiful. That's a good,
Describe one. You've just met a person from Mars who doesn't know what a phytoplankton is. Explain it to them why their appearance inspires you.
Well, I guess they're a small, often spherical, sometimes cube-shaped organism. They're coloured by pigments that they contain within those cells, and the colour of those pigments is a lot like the colour wheel that artists will appreciate. So colours absorb opposite colours of light. I suppose when we look at them, we're very much looking at the outside. It's very superficial, really, what we do, because our technology is quite limited in that we do look at the more aesthetic things of the cell, is what most people will call. People often value phytoplankton based on their looks, not on what their inequalities or their personality. And so my favourite phytoplankton are cyanobacteria. So they're a funky species, but they have a very peculiar pigment that can do things that the really beautiful big ones can't do. So they have much more interesting personalities, I think, and they're better to get to know. You have better conversations with them. So
beautiful, thank you. I might also add that the questions that I've been asking tonight haven't been scripted at all. So I think, again, these three PhD students are amazing communicators, aren't they, about telling us why they love what they're doing, why they're passionate about it, and why it's so important.